This is
Okay.
the Low Energy Power Hour. Hi, I'm Maddie.
I'm Karina.
And welcome back to Everything But the Fairy Tale Sync. We've had some wonderful, enjoyable, and very lovely 10 out of 10 technical problems.
Yep.
We tried to record this a little bit ago, and we were getting really awful static. Weren't entirely sure why, but hopefully it's gone now. This week, we are talking about the Egyptian god of death himself, Anubis, which Karina and I both have fond memories of from Rick Riordan's Kane Chronicles trilogy.
Yes. Okay, quick clarifying question.
What?
Is he the god of death or is he the god of mummies?
I will get to that.
Cool.
I will get to that, I promise you. But first, recommendations.
Awesome. My recommendation for this week is the show Daredevil. It's fantastic.
Which I just started. I'm on episode 2.
It is fantastic. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat. It is a lot, though, so read trigger warnings before you start.
My recommendation is the show on Hulu called The Great. It is about Catherine the Great and her husband Peter and Russia. And it's just kind of about their life, early marriage, all that fun stuff. It is it's not too gory, but it is very mature humor and mature comments. So kind of like with Daredevil, watch at your own discretion, which, what's hilarious is I learned that the directors of a few episodes of The Great were also directors of a few episodes of Hawkeye.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So the sense of humor translated to Hawkeye just a lot more toned down. Not as much swearing.
Which, by the way, Hawkeye was great. I don't know if you recommended that already, but
I'd recommend it because it wasn't out at the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're in the mood for something Christmassy in January, Hawkeye was great.
10 out of 10. Definitely recommend.
Sorry about any weird background noise you're hearing, by the way.
It's not as bad as that time with the pots and pans. Anyways, shall we get into it? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, Anubis is the god of both mummification and the afterlife. So that answers your question.
Okay.
He is the patron god of lost souls and the helpless. So I think that's kind of nice.
That is nice, actually.
And he makes sure that people get their proper burial rights, no matter what. Which, again, very nice.
Really nice.
The name Anubis is the Greek form of the Egyptian Anpu, which means to decay. So while he is an Egyptian god, the name that we know him most commonly by is a Greek version of the Egyptian name.
Oh, interesting.
Just as a clarification. Other names of his include he who is upon his mountain, Lord of the sacred land, and he who is in the place of embalming. So lots of fancy schmancy names. Not as cool as Sekhmet's names, but they're pretty cool, pretty powerful names.
A little less
terrifying as well. A little less terrifying. I like how Egyptian gods have, their given name and then a couple fun nicknames.
It is fun.
He is also one of the oldest Egyptian gods and is most likely developed from an older jackal god because, as we know, Egyptian gods are portrayed with a human body and then an animal head of any kind. So Anubis is a human male body with the head of a jackal. So he is most likely derived from the older jackal god, LiQWYD.
Interesting.
And I'm going to look up real quick what he was the god of. So LiQWYD was is an Egyptian jackal god whose name means the opener of ways, and as such he helped the deceased through the frequently dangerous paths of the afterlife, clearing the way to the final judgment of the dead.
Interesting. So very similar.
Go. So very similar, and the two are often very commonly very often confused because they're both jackal gods and they both have similar duties. Just LiQWYD is much older than Anubis is, though they share similar duties and are very, very often confused. Anyways, so the depiction of Anubis, I briefly mentioned it. He is depicted as a jackal/black dog hybrid, so a human male body with the head of either a black dog or a jackal, and he has pointy ears, and a lot of descriptions I saw of him were like a very muscular torso. So there you go.
I'm really glad I didn't open my mouth yet because I was really going to be like puppy, and then you said muscular torso, and I'm like, appropriate timing to say puppy.
Awful timing. Awful timing. So the color black for the black jackal head or black dog head was chosen because black symbolizes the decay of the body and the fertile soil of the Nile River Valley. So it has a dual meaning there. And if anyone who has read the Kane Chronicle books, which we recommended when we talked about Sekhmet, Anubis is in those books, and he's like a 14 or 15-year-old boy in those books. And I picture him as, if anyone's seen Inside Out, Riley's imaginary boyfriend, that's how I imagine him looking.
Here's the thing.
I would die for Riley. That guy.
Here's the thing. When I was 14 or whatever, he was so cute. And now looking back, I can't not laugh at him because he's literally so 2013.
2013 emo boy, though. You have to be really specific.
The book came out in like 2010, but like very specific type of child that was going to find Anubis attractive.
Formative character and shaping.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh boy. So Anubis's image was first seen in the royal tombs from the first dynasty of Egypt, which was 3,150 to 2,890 CE. So
what? That might be really dumb. What is CE?
CE is Common Era.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Because it used to be BC and AD, which BC was before Christ and AD was after death, but also Anna something that meant
Anno Dominion, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But anyways, because they wanted to be more inclusive and not just have the Christian viewpoint on it, it is now before Common Era, so BCE and CE Common Era.
Gotcha.
There's a little history lesson for you. I learned that in my geography class, so there's a little history for everybody.
Really confused as to why some of my academic sites were using BC and some were using BCE.
Yes, so they mean the same thing. BC. So if anyone is looking at anything, because this is all over the internet, all over textbooks, now you know you learn something new every day. So yes, they mean the exact same thing. BCE is just the non-Christian version that's a little bit more inclusive of everything and not only looking at things from the Christian timeline point of view.
Gotcha. Okay.
There you go. History lesson. Though he already had a cult following at this point, a cult-like following, not a cult following. We don't do cults here. Priests. What? Well, okay.
I think we've covered cults before, actually.
That's beside the point. So his images were seen at this point. Anyways, priests who worshipped Anubis were male, and they wore wooden masks of the god. So, I mean, a lot of priests in this day and age were male just because that's how it was. But priests of Anubis did wear the jackal god's head in wooden mask form to differentiate themselves from other priests.
Gotcha. And
this is thought to have been developed because of the jackals and wild dogs who would dig up fresh graves in the pre-dynastic period, which was 6,000 to 3,150 CE.
Okay.
There's a lot of dates in this, I'm sorry.
Wait, CE or BCE?
CE. It might be BCE. I put CE, but I think it's BCE.
Because, I mean, CE has only been like 2,000 years.
I'm going to Google it real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, BCE. Yes.
Okay.
So I was...
Okay.
So yes, 3,000 to 2,890 BCE is when he first appeared in the first dynasty of Egypt. And then the pre-dynastic period, which predated that period, was 6,000 to 3,150 BCE. Thank you for catching me on that. Okay. History lesson still applies, though, so BCE means before Common Era. Okay. Gotcha. I just wanted to clarify that. Yep. Thank you for catching me on that. Yes. Known as the first of the Westerners, Anubis kind of... So,
first Westerners.
Yes.
Okay, I did read correctly.
Yes, this was prior to the rise of Osiris in the Middle Kingdom, which was 2040 BCE to 1782 BCE.
Okay.
Yes. Lots of dates. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So he was the king of the Westerners, which was the Egyptian term for people who had passed away because the afterlife was west towards the sunset.
Right, I remember that actually.
Yeah, okay. So Anubis is called the first of the Westerners because he does live in, the land of the dead, which is to the west in the direction of the sunset.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Lots of terminology and stuff here. He is considered to be the son of Osiris and Hesat, and he was later assimilated into the Osiris myth and thought to be the son of Osiris and Nephthys. So either or, it depends on which version you're looking at.
So no matter what, Osiris is his dad.
No matter what, Osiris is his dad, but depending on the version of the story, his mom might be different, and I'm not entirely sure why, but it just...
You don't mind me asking clarifying questions, right?
No, go for it. Also, just to clarify, I will not be getting into any stories of Anubis. Any stories of Anubis, I'm just giving a general rundown, but if you would like to hear stories of Anubis, I can try and find some. To be quite honest, there's not a ton of stories about him, but yeah.
He kind of is almost like, to give him a contemporary, or not contemporary, but you know what I mean, like, he's almost like Hestia, from what I'm hearing, of like very important religiously and exists in mythology, but doesn't have a ton of stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he is the father to Kebhet, who brings cool water to those who have died in the Hall of Truth and comforts the newly deceased. And while he's very popular in Egyptian art and mythos, there are not many stories of him, like I just said. Sanctuaries and statues of him are still very popular to this day. So, like you said, with Hestia, she's extremely important to Greek mythos and culture. She just doesn't have a ton of stories about her. That's kind of how Anubis is. He very much so keeps to himself in Egyptian mythology, doesn't really get too involved in a bunch of squabbles, but he still serves an extremely important role.
I will say, I took a Greek mythology class last quarter, and I feel like my professor summed it up really well, and it's Egyptian mythology is different from Greek. I am not saying they're anything alike. I have studied both. They are nothing alike. However, very similar concept of the gods that do the least injustice are the most important in religion and the least important in myth. So that's kind of what I'm saying with Anubis.
Yeah, so he doesn't have a ton of stories of him. We know a lot about him. We know a lot of his history. We know that he's extremely important and is one of the main, most popular gods in Egyptian mythology, and is seen, I think he's seen in a lot of video games too. Like if you look him up, he's very popular in pop culture. He just doesn't have a lot of stories about him, which
because he minded his own business.
Yeah, he minded his own business. Mind your own business, people.
You'll become an important religious figure.
Yes. Yes, you will. You heard it here, folks. If you mind your own business going through life, you will become an important religious figure. Anyways, that is all I have. But if you would like me to dig up some stories of Anubis or share any more stuff on him, let us know. And there could be a part 2 of him, because at this point we've covered a lot of gods and goddesses, and quite frankly, we could do a part 2 on any of them.
Yeah.
So if you would like a part 2 of any of them, we enjoy it, please let us know. We will gladly do it. Which, by the way, Karina, people want a part 2 of Loki, so.
I'm aware. I'm a little intimidated by that.
I could even do a part 2 if you want. If you wanted to hand it over.
You definitely have no ulterior motives for wanting to look up Loki.
I have no ulterior motives. I just have so many books on Norse mythology that
is true.
If you wanted
to just mail me some of those.
I'll just send you pictures. But if you wanted to ever hand over the crown, the gauntlet, the something, I'll take it on.
I won't make you do that. It was so frustrating. Okay, anyways, back to Anubis. I actually have a question.
What?
So my perception of Anubis in pop culture is he seems like one of those gods that was kind of taken in by almost the goth scene or something like that as a symbol. But I feel like when he comes up in games and stuff like that, he's almost always an intimidating figure, at least if not a villain. Why do you think that is? Just because he deals with death, or because honestly,
I just feel like
concept
gods
figure.
of death were a little more feared than other gods, and no matter what mythology you're talking about, people always, especially with like Greek mythology and Norse mythology, the two that I kind of know a little more about than some other mythologies. I feel like Hades is quite feared.
I don't know. Never really got
sometimes. I mean, Hades is becoming very popular. The story of Hades and Persephone, which we should definitely cover, is becoming quite popular in pop culture now, for good or for bad.
Yeah.
So he's becoming a little less intimidating, but for a while he was quite an intimidating figure. And same with Hel. Hel is she's a scary figure in Norse mythology.
I mean, she's like actually kind of scary.
Yeah.
She like has half a skeleton face or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like the way you're describing Anubis and like Egyptian mythos and stuff like that, he sounds like a really positive figure. So I honestly like have to ask if that's like modern. I don't want to say modern media because it probably would have happened well before this, but like the Egyptology craze of like the 1800s and stuff like that. I have to wonder if it was born of that.
It could have been, and I mean, obviously every culture looks at death differently, but it could have been like maybe the Egyptians were okay with death, like they weren't very afraid of it. So having this figure who was very like, because everything I saw said that he was a guiding soul. He took, you know, he helped kind of take care of people. Obviously, those who deserved punishment got their punishment. But overall, it seemed like it was, you know, a good, like the afterlife was a kind of a safe place almost. Yeah. And I could be talking out of my butt here, but you know.
I will say, by the way, we can't cover it on this podcast because it technically doesn't fit, but like, I know Lore by Aaron Mahnke has a really good episode on this, but like to the people who are listening to this, I might be using the wrong term, but like Victorian Egyptology and Orientalism are so weird and like fascinating but horrible to me. Like I want to do a whole deep dive into that, but it doesn't fit into this podcast. So like if anybody knows more about that, please leave it in the comments. But yeah, I guess that's my only thing is like if any of our viewers see this and know anything about like why that shift happened and if it did have anything to do with like this Victorian craze of, I guess, stealing from the cultures, to put it honestly. I genuinely want to know that, because I'm very curious how we have painted him as, like, this goth icon.
Oh, yes. I forgot to mention this. Yes. So this source I have says, the heart was measured against the feather of truth and justice, which belonged to Maat. If the heart was heavier than the feather, they were guilty and bad. And these people were sent to Amit, who was a lady demon with the body of a lion, part crocodile. No, she had a body that was part lion, part crocodile, and part hippopotamus, and she would eat them.
Sorry. That's just so final.
Yes, it is. And Anubis was also the inventor of the process of embalming, according to Egyptian mythology. Yes. So it just could be that Egyptians really weren't afraid of death, and they knew that death was coming to all of them at any point in their lives. And so they had a very calming figure in a sense to look at.
Plus, it's also funny to me because I had a Egypt mythology. Sorry, bad English. I had an Egyptian mythology phase in middle school because I was a Rick Riordan kid. I'm sorry. But, like, honestly, I feel like death was kind of commodified in Egypt a lot of the times with, like, nobles and stuff like that. Of, like, I must have as much stuff in my tomb as possible so it can go with me into the afterlife. You hear all
these stories of discovering tombs, and it's like they were buried with gold and silver and, you know, all these things. I think he's just a very, I think people see him as a very protective god because he would escort the souls to the land of the dead when they died. So,
yes. I don't know. I think he's cool. I've always thought he was cool.
I've always thought he was a very cool god. Honestly, gods of death, I think, are very interesting.
Really cool.
Because, like I mentioned earlier, every culture views death differently. And so it's always interesting to see like what their afterlives look like, how their judgment process is. And, you know, no one's like really good or really, you know, everyone's kind of got that moral ground. So it's interesting to see how they're all judged in the end.
That's such a deep topic at this point, and my brain just went, nope.
I know, I always feel like, I mean, have we covered any other gods of death?
I don't know.
I think this is the only
Done
one.
gods that kill people.
Maybe my thing will be gods of death, because I will be covering hell eventually too, and Hades. So that can be my thing. You know, you've got your tricksters. I have my death gods.
My trickster and my baby snatchers.
Yes. Anyways, what's up next? What have we got?
Next will be Nain Rouge.
What is
I
that?
will be 100% honest. I haven't done a ton of research into this yet because I had a different episode planned for next week, but did not pan out. So I am kind of throwing one together a little last minute, so I do apologize for that. But it sounds French. I believe it's from like New Orleans again, so we might be going back to New Orleans, which we all know I love. Nain Rouge.
Nain, the demon of the strait, is a legendary creature of the Detroit, Michigan area.
Oh, it's not New Orleans. Yeah, no, I have not been able to do any research on this yet. I started my King Arthur one thinking I was going to do that next week, and it's such a mess, to be completely honest.
So we're kind of going into urban legend territory again. We haven't done one of those in a while. How exciting!
It'll probably be another short and sweet while I figure out the mess that is the King Arthur episode. I'm excited for that one, but that one is gonna take a lot of deciphering of sources. So
I feel like anytime we tackle a huge topic like King Arthur, there's just a lot to cover, and you're like, okay, what's important? What's not important?
I mean, I've literally been putting this one off since summer of last year. So.
Yeah, I remember you keep telling me, I really want to do King Arthur, and then you're like, I don't know if I could do King Arthur.
It's so intimidating. There's so much. Yes. So coming up next will be
Nain Rouge.
Yes.
Also, if anyone has any suggestions for anything we should cover, let us know.
Yes.
DM us. Can you message people on TikTok?
Yes, you can.
Okay, DM us.
I will be
on YouTube.
If you message us on TikTok, it might take me a little bit longer to see it, so I apologize if I don't see it right away.
Stick to DMing and commenting on YouTube, because
that's probably the easiest way.
There's so many things out there for us to cover that we might not know all of them, and if you're like, oh, I really, really want to hear about this, tell us. Let us know. We want to cover all the things.
And we also want to go like all over the world, because we can't actually go anywhere right now. We're both broke college students.
And also Panini.
Wishes?
Wishes. Yes. And question of the day comes after the wishes.
Oh, I have a weirdly specific one. If you get an appliance from like Walmart or Target or something, the reason I'm thinking about this is you said panini. My dad got a panini press recently. I don't know if it works, but if you get like a waffle maker, a panini press, something of that sort, I hope that it makes the most delectable whatever.
That's a good one. My wish is that, I know Christmas has already passed and all holidays have already passed, but my wish is that you got what you wanted for Christmas or whatever holiday you choose to celebrate, and you had a good one.
Yeah.
The question of the day, because, you know, this is an episode about a god. What is your favorite god or goddess that we have covered in this this show? This thing, this show.
This is a show, right?
What do we want to call it? Vodcast, podcast?
It's a podcast, but we've been doing a vodcast, so like.
Anyways, what's your favorite we've covered? We've covered everything from Thor, Loki, Sekhmet, now Anubis. We've covered, wow, I can't name them all. We've covered a lot.
Yeah, Kali is coming up at some point. I'm excited for that one.
What's your favorite that we've covered?
Not Loki. Probably Sekhmet. She was a lot of fun to research, and she's so unhinged. Like, I have a secret love for the unhinged ones. I'm sorry.
I think my favorite is Thor. There's just so many funny stories in Norse mythology. So that one I definitely enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe if you haven't.
Yes.
Or I'll send something after you. I don't know. Go follow us on socials. Also leave a comment on socials, or here both Instagram and TikTok are at everything but the FTC. If we hit...
Bitches.
No.
I beat you to it.
Screw you. If we hit 50 followers on Instagram and 50 subscribers on YouTube, I will buy a poster of Loki. If we hit 100, Karina will buy a poster of Shang-Chi and it will go somewhere. And if we hit 1,000, my stepdad Steve will pretend to milk the plastic cow at Hagen. Anyways, we'll see you next week.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.